A very good afternoon to Prof. Lee and all my fellow participants. My name is Seow Hui. You can call me Hui. And actually, I ask my students to call me Sensei. It's easier. And I am currently a lecturer in the Department of Computer Science, FICT, which is located in UTAR Kampar campus. Now, today, I would like to share with you about segmentation versus skeletonization. Now, if these two terms were brought into the boxing ring, which team or which term will become the winner? All right, you can use your imagination at the moment to think about the winner. Okay, now, while you're thinking or imagining, I would like to briefly explain my outline of my talk today. There are mainly 5 topics I would like to share with all of you. The fundamentals of 3D mesh, 3D mesh segmentation, what is 3D mesh skeletonization, and what happen if two combine together. All right, will they become a friend? Will they become enemy? And finally, I would like to share my story regarding my PhD candidature period. So let's get started. So, like what I have mentioned just now, if we were brought these two terms of segmentation and skeletonization into the boxing ring, now will they become friends or will they become enemy and fight each other? Now let's dig in further. Okay. First of all, I would like to define, or just give you an overview about 3-dimensional mesh. Now, what is 3D mesh? Now, a mesh is a 3D model that is made up entirely of triangles that often number in thousands or millions to create a complete model. Okay, and these triangles are made by connecting data points that have been rendered on Cartesian coordinates, which is in X, Y, and Z planes. All right, they are composed of vertices, as shown in this diagram, edges, and also faces. Now, this is an example of a mushroom. And how do you actually manufacture a 3D mesh? There are actually 3 ways. The first way is 3D scanner. This is one example of Gaussian Spark, and it costs about $40,000 US, depending on the configuration and countries. Now, when a part is scanned, all right, the scanner records measurements in the form of point clouds, all right, which consists of thousands or millions of data points, all right? And these data points become vertices of the triangle once the software is told to convert, all right, the point cloud into a mesh by connecting the dots. The second method is the conversion software. Now, you can also use conversion software, okay, to convert a medical imaging CT or computed tomography scan into 3D models. Now, this is what I'll be using in the research later, I'll explain. And there are some free and proprietary software and online services. The third one is the 3D modeling software, where you can create yourself, all right, manually. Now, but this method is a bit tedious and ineffective because of the average low resolution mesh will still have hundreds or thousands of data points. Now, our research is actually using the second and the third method, where a conversion software is used to convert the CT images into OBJ file format, while the 3D modeling software is used to render a simple geometric shapes for algorithm testing purposes. Now, the next one is, I would like to talk about the 3D mesh segmentation. Now, as you can see from this picture, this is actually a big piece of pumpkin. Now, how do you normally prepare this in order to eat? Now, you don't normally put this big piece into a pot or a microwave to cook directly, right? So what you normally do is to cut them into quarters or using a small sharp knife to peel off the skin, unless if you plan to roast it, in which case the skin can stay on. Then cut into chunks or wedges as required. Now, this is a real life or a simple example, which brings me to the next highlight of the talk, which is the 3D mesh segmentation. Now, what is 3D mesh segmentation? As what I have illustrated previously in the pumpkin, it's a process of partitioning a 3D mesh into a meaningful segments based on desirable constraint for easier analysis and processing, for easier cooking, right, and baking. So this is some examples actually done by other researchers. And this is actually a fundamental research topic. in geometric processing and computer graphics. Now, where you can find all the meshes, because of this challenging problem has been studied for the last 2 to 3 decades and has even led to the development of online meshes, where you can find, you can download the meshes free from this website, AIM Shape. Now, why we need segmentation? Now, as you can see from the pumpkin example, a big piece of a pumpkin or a complicated problem will become easier if only the objects at hand could be cut up into smaller and easier to handle subjects or objects. All right, and it is an open problem and will require further research, and an optimized approach is required to imply the high level information for the row, because 3D mesh itself is no meaning, right? It's a raw 3D mesh. So in order to extract the high level information, in order to facilitate the further processing and interpretation, and also it is used to analyze the shape of the 3D mesh and establish some relationship. It is also to automatically to produce segmentations that resembles one made by the human. All right, and segmentation actually is a very crucial pre-processing stage for several applications, and again, it is application-based dependent. So the general framework of this segmentation, which consists of 3D mesh construction, pre-processing, post-processing, and then the segmented 3D mesh. Now, what do you mean by pre-processing? Yeah. Now, the researchers usually define the constraints in the pre-processing stage and then use some partition approach in the post-processing to obtain the segmented 3D mesh. Now, what is constraint definition? Now, it is used to define the weight on the edges of 3D mesh by applying certain attributes or certain characteristics of the 3D mesh. And as for the partition approach, it is used normally use the existing clustering algorithms to divide the primitive mesh elements into subparts. Now, this table shows the various constraints and partition techniques are used in the existing 3D mesh segmentation research. Now, no matter what algorithm is used, right, for the mesh segmentation, the most important factor that affecting the result is the criteria or the constraint that I have mentioned just now for deciding which elements belong to the same segment, and the choice of the constraint imposed on the partitioning process later. Excuse me. Now, I have surveyed a lot of papers, and normally they use this geodesic distance, dihedral angle, and Gaussian curvature as their constraint. Let's take a look, like a brief explanation. Yeah. Now, for geodesic distance is a simple measure of distance between two vertices in a graph, all right, which is the shortest path between the vertices. Now, formally, the geodesic distance between two vertices is the length in terms of the number of edges of the shortest path between vertices, as you can see from the diagram. How about dihedral angle? Now, this is quite straightforward, where a dihedral angle is the angle between two intersecting planes or half planes, as you can see from the diagram. How about Gaussian curvature? Now, Gaussian curvature of a surface at a point is defined as a product of the two principal normal curvatures. I believe some of you know, right? the K1 and K2. And then it is said to be positive if the principal normal curvatures curve in the same direction, and it is negative if they curve in the opposite direction. Now, how about the existing partition techniques that are used in the post-processing? Now, these partition techniques that you are seeing here are used to define the cutting edge or the clustering approaches. Now, which includes the K-means, region, growing, spectral clustering, and graph cuts. Now, as you can see later, these techniques are commonly used in image segmentation. That's why from the techniques from image segmentation, we are borrowing from them to apply in 3D mesh segmentation. Now, what do you mean by K-mean? Now, K-mean is one of the most popular clustering algorithm, and well, it will stores the K-centroids that it used to define the clusters, And a point is in a particular cluster if it is closer to that cluster's centroid than any other centroid, as you can see from this diagram. Oh, can you see? All right, you can see it. Okay. Now, how about region growing? Now, region growing is a simple region-based image segmentation method. Now, it is also classified as a pixel-based image segmentation method, as since it involves the selection of initial seed points. How about spectral clustering? Now, this is a bit difficult because they are using the techniques of eigenvalues of graph Laplacian. Okay, now this one is related to my research, where in the graph theory, right, a cut is a partition of the vertices of a graph into two different subsets. All right, so I'm using this graph cut algorithm, all right, to be applied in the partition techniques. Now, next, so as far as I mentioned, it's about mesh segmentation. Let's go into this skeletonization. Now, what is skeletonization? Now, please take a look at this hand. All right, I extract from this paper, and the lines, as you can see here, are the skeletons of the hand. One example. Another picture. This is a fish. Now, and I'm sure you know, right? If you're not a vegetarian, you know there are bones for a fish, and these bones are actually the skeletons. The important skeleton for this fish. Again, these examples are the pre-descriptions for the next research topic, which is the 3D skeletonization. Now, what is 3D skeletonization? It is a process of extracting and generating a skeleton, or we call a curved skeleton, all right, for a 3D mesh. All right, and now, why do we need a 3D mesh skeletonization? First, because now a 3D shape, they have a lot of, not to say a raw information, all right? And it is very complicated. So that's why we need these skeletons, because these skeletons having specific and significant geometric and also topological information. Besides that, they also computing 3D skeletons accurately and scalable for large and complex 3D models is much more challenging than computing 2D skeletons. Okay, and now, as I found out from the paper, a survey paper, they stated that 3D skeletonization is a newer research area as compared to 2D skeletonization, with many methods and applications having emerged recently. And finally, a 3D skeleton is not only an abstraction of the 3D mesh at the center line of the 3D mesh, but also a compact representation of the 3D mesh, which is used for 3D shape analysis, descriptions, identification, and also segmentation, and also other applications that you will see. Okay, now there are basically various methods of constructing a skeleton from a 3D mesh. The first one is media axis, rib graph, and geometric contraction, or we call thinning method. Now, I won't talk about rib graph and geometric contraction. I will more focus on media axis because that's my research somehow. So what is media axis? Now, it is a set of curves defined as a locus of points that leave at least two closest points on the boundary of the shape, as you see in this diagram. Now, therefore, all right, the media axis transform of a given 2D mesh is the media axis together with a radius function that means those maximally inscribed balls. And now this media axis skeleton is based on the media axis transform. So in other words, all right, this is an illustration of media axis transform, which composed of two important components. The first one, media axis. The second one is radius function. Now, what do you mean by media axis? Now, this is a definition. Now, media axis for a given object, omega, is defined as a loci of all maximal inscribed disks that meets two or more boundary points without crossing boundaries. And as for radius function, it is associated with each point on the medial axis, which form the medial circle. Now you can see this diagram, all right, for more information about medial axis and the radius function. Now, however, it is difficult to compute the medial axis transform accurately. So there are several strategies are used to construct a skeleton that approximates a medial axis. The first one is called Boronoid Diagram. Second one is 3D Voxel Grids, and the third one is distance transform field. I'll briefly explain about these strategies. So these are the existing work that use these respective strategies to form the medial axis transform. Now the first one is Voronoi Diagram, which actually they use the Voronoi Diagram to approximate the medial axis skeleton. As you can see, this is a Voronoi Diagram. It's a partition of a plane into regions that is close to each other of a given set of objects in mathematics somehow, and also in computer graphics as well. Then this paper actually presented a novel Voronoi diagram based skeletonization algorithm that produces a non-center skeletons. The second strategy is 3D Voxel Grids, which computes the medial axis approximation across 3D voxel grids. Now, what is voxel? Now, in 3D computer graphics, a voxel represents a value on a regular grid in three-dimensional space, as you can see from this diagram. And this paper actually presented a 3D skeletonization algorithm for 3D mesh models using a partial parallel 3D thinning algorithm and a 3D skeleton correcting algorithm that inspects the disconnected voxels in the skeleton. Now, last but not least, all right, the last strategy in this discussion would be the distance transform field. Now, this distance transform, also known as a distance map or distance field, is derived representation of a digital image. So this paper again proposed a method that is based on the calculation of the distance function with respect to the object boundary. All right, these authors actually extract the approximate skeleton for the 2D or 3D image. Now next, so after all my explanation regarding the terms of segmentation and skeletonization, it's time to put them together. So what do you think? Are these two terms friends or enemies? Okay, the answer is they are friends. Okay, now this 3D mesh segmentation and 3D mesh skeletonization are two fundamental and highly important algorithms in computer graphics and animation techniques. Now, because of the close link between an object skeletons and its boundary, all right, these two problems are in many cases complementary. All right, any segmentation of the 3D mesh can exist in the creation of the skeleton, or any extraction of the skeleton can actually infer a segmentation of the 3D mesh. Okay, both actually are friends. So these are some papers, all right, that actually use either they find out the segmentation and then they extract the skeleton, or they get the skeleton and then they obtain the segmentation. Okay. Now these are some applications in this combination of two terms, segmentation or two techniques of segmentation and skeletonization. Now you can use in medical, 3D mesh unfolding perhaps, and surveillance system, and also robotics. Now, perhaps, I do not know, perhaps in XR, all right, or even in extended reality. I have not gone into this study, but yeah, maybe there's a possible, application there. Okay, now it's time to tell you a story about my part-time PhD candidature in UTAR. Okay, now I have registered myself in the Department of Computer Science, FICT UTAR campus for my PhD. Now, overall, it's not easy. Also, it's but it's possible, because I have to juggling between my work and my PhD research at the same time. So if you have the affordability and opportunity to pursue in full time, please do so. All right, this is my words of wisdom to the students today. So my title is an optimized approach for 3D mesh segmentation. And these are the VIPs for my PhD, actually my supervisors, yeah, very important people. And I really would like to express my gratitude to them because they accept me as their PhD part-time student. This is Prof. Lee, as you know, right? Okay, now, my objective of my PhD, yeah, the first objective is to conduct literature survey, which I have done a lot on segmentation for 3D meshes and also skeletonization. The second objective is to design an optimized approach, all right, to decompose the 3D mesh into visually segmented segments, all right, relevant to our chosen application. And the last objective is to develop and verify the performance of the proposed approach with the application in 3D mesh application. Now, and I have divided my candidature period into 4 phases, yeah, with respective years. Now, the first phase is about 3D mesh dual segmentation on the simple 3D meshes, and the second phase is learning the 3D mesh skeletonization on the 3D human femurs, while the third phase is to apply the segmentation algorithm into related application and perform verification. Finally, the fourth phase will be my dissertation preparation. Now, since my candidature is on next year, April, but I have to apply according to my supervisor, Prof. Yu, all right, he suggested me to apply for extension, all right, to complete the third and fourth phases. And the maximum extension in UTAR is 2 years. So let's take a look, closer look for these phases. Now, the first phase is the my findings of 3D mesh dual segmentation. What is it about? Now, for dual segmentation, it involves a process of partitioning a 3D mesh into 2 meaningful segments based on desirable constraint. Now, for example, this again, the 3D mushroom. Okay, and it is actually divided into 2 parts as you see the color. All right, the different color. So this yellow color indicates the upper part, while this blue indicates the lower part. Again, the motivation is similar to what I have mentioned just now. And the objective of this first phase is to present an interactive dual segmentation approach for simple 3D meshes in order to produce 2 segments that imitate human visual perception and yet avoid over-segmentation. And this is the framework of my methodology. And it begins with a program called KMMCS. It's actually Korean Mathematical Methods for Curves and Surfaces, developed in Microsoft Visual Studio by Professor Byung-Gook to construct a 3D mesh. Okay, then followed by the constraint definition, which the wave functions from the 3D mesh simplification are used. Finally, all right, the improved maximum flow minimum cut algorithm is used in the partition techniques. So let's get a closer look at these processes. Now, the first process in the 3D mesh construction, I have been testing 2 different types of 3D meshes as for my understanding, all right, I actually categorize into 2 different types. The first one is symmetrical 3D meshes, and the second one is asymmetrical 3D meshes. Yeah, and we are using this 3D modeling software to draw. And these are some examples of symmetrical 3D meshes that are using the KMMCS program. Now, it indicates that these meshes are made up of similar shapes that facing each other, while this is the asymmetrical 3D meshes. These meshes are made up of different shapes, all right, that are facing each other. And then followed by the constraint definition, which I use the wave function, all right, and assign on each edges of the 3D meshes, like this in the diagram. And now we actually utilizing the benefits of wave functions in this 3D mesh simplification algorithms, where it is a process of reducing the number of faces used in a surface mesh while keeping the overall shape, volume, and also the boundaries are preserved as much as possible. Now, the factors of this reduction area are narrow, distant, and unimportant points, okay, that will be chosen as the reduction, okay, in this original mesh simplification. So in this research, I have tried the wave functions from Stan Malek's, Kim's 11, and also Lindstrom 3rd to be the constraint definition. Then we have came out an idea to reciprocate these wave functions to be used in our segmentation constraints. Now, as you know, the concept of reciprocation is adding or by just divide one, right, by this existing wave function. And this will result, all the factors of reduction, all right, turns into wide, near, and important area. All right, we have the higher chance of becoming the cutting edge. So, and this is one example of the formula, okay, in Stan Malek's. And this is the second one is how we reciprocate. We just add one, divide by one, okay, in order to get our results. And I have also tested this wave function. So this is the existing wave function, and this is the wave functions with replication. Okay, and then once I have defined my constraint, then I'll go for the partition technique. Now this technique, this process, right, I'm using the improved maximum flow and minimum flow algorithm presented by Boykov and Kolmogorov. Did I explain? Okay, you can read. Okay, these are the definition of this max flow and min cut. They have improved, all right, the empirical performance by building two non-overlapping search tree. Okay, and one from the source and the other from the sink. This is one example. Now, in short, given a graph structure, all right, by selecting which one is the source node and which one is the sink node, all right, T here, then the algorithm will be able to find the maximum flow from the source to the sink, okay? And once the maximum flow is found, it also indicates that the minimum cut will be obtained as well due to their duality equation. So the minimum cut will cut a graph into two different subsets, the source and the sink, as you can see from this diagram. So this color is for source and this color is belongs to the sink. Okay, and so in my program, right, so how am I going to fit in to be used this improved max flow and min cut? First, I have to construct a 3D graph from this 3D mesh, okay, like this, to form a graph. And then I have to choose, this is what I call hard constraint, where I have to choose which one is the source node, which one is the sink node. And then I apply the algorithm. This algorithm consists of a cycle of three processes: the growth, augmentation, and adoption. And then from there, they are able to divide this graph into two different subsets, the source and the sink. This is what I want, all right? So this will be cut off, all right? This is the cutting edge, that's it. So this is the top view of my sample test. So I have to select the source node and I have to select the sink node. And this is the results. Now, the first time that I used the original one, all right, the original wave function from Stan Malek, Kim's, and Lindstrom. And the results, fail, okay, because they are failed to divide the vertices into two parts. Okay, so this is the results. And also I tested in the asymmetrical 3D meshes. This one actually can, but it's not really a good one. Yeah, so I put a triangle here, but the rest is actually cross, means fail. Now, as for our reciprocation wave functions, all right, we are able to find a better performance. All right, as you can see from this diagram, okay, we are able to divide into two different subsets, the source and the sink. All right, but this one maybe, that's why I put a triangle in this case. So this is the result. So if I use the existing wave functions, we will not be able to get the two subsets. But if we use our function, then we can get quite a good result. Okay, so this is the conclusion of my first phase. And yeah, this is actually the overall process that involved in this research. And this is my publication, just the conference with proceedings and without the proceedings, and also the colloquium. Now, colloquium is actually a conference or a progress update organized by UTAR. Okay. And this is the grant. This is already rejected. Because it's not related, I think. And then this is the funding that I got last time to kickstart this research. And yeah, let's go to the second phase, which is the skeletonization. Now, the platform that I'm using, or the 3D meshes, is the human femur. Okay, done together with Prof. Lee. Now, what is human femur? Or it is also called as a thigh bone. All right, thigh bone. Now, in the upper leg, it is located within the human thigh, as you can see from this diagram. And femur is actually the longest, the heaviest, and also the strongest, right, in the human body. And its length on average is 26.74% of a person's height, according to Feldman. Now, there are several possible muscular skeletal disorder, or in other words, it's a femoral shaft fracture. The causes are due to high force that can actually caused by the motor vehicle accident, or also motorcycle crash, or also lower force incident, which actually falls from the high ladder landing, standing, or older people who has weaker bone, or we call this as osteoporosis. This is one example, okay, given by Prof. Lee. Actually, this is bones collected from the cadaver, which they already passed away, all right? The fracture bones. Now, what's the treatments actually? Now, there are actually two types of treatments. One is called non-surgical, another one is called surgical. Now, non-surgical, most femoral shaft requires surgery to heal, but it is unusual for femoral shaft fractures to be treated without surgery. This actually saying the very young children, all right, which actually treated a cast, okay, do not need surgical. The second treatment is called surgical, which involves the external fixation, which uses the metal pins and screws to be placed into the bone above and below the fracture with a bar attached outside the skin. All right, this is external fixation. There's another method called open reduction and internal fixation, where actually you are using an implant device, we call it. This is an intramedullary nail or intramedullary rod to force this into this medullary cavity of the femur bone. Okay, in order to hold the bone firmly. Okay, now there's another, besides of femoral fractures, right? There's another issues where it's about the bowing. All right, bowing, as you can see from this diagram. All right, bowing is an orthopedic condition affecting the legs in which a person's knee stay widely apart even when their ankles are together. All right, giving the legs a bow look. As you can see, this is a baby, I think, yeah, it's a children, and this is a adult where also the femur is bowed. All right, we call bowing. Now, this will cause a lot of mismatch, especially for orthopedics when they want to place the implant or insert the implant into this to treat the fracture. But if the patient having femoral bowing, all right, there will be a lot of complication. So that's why this severe bowing of femur can result in mismatch between the intramedullary nail and the alignment of the femur. So the motivation for this phase is to make a custom-made implants, all right, are necessary for patients who suffers from severe bowing femur. Okay, and the existing preoperative planning is very complicated and must be handled very carefully. And an accurate and automatic of 3D preoperative simulations are desirable. So the objective is to develop a 3D femur analysis system based on the skeleton that is extracted directly from a human femur for each individual patient in order to produce an accurate preoperative simulation possible. Now, the methodology involved in this phase is, again, there are 4 phases. The first one are 4 processes, all right? The first one, pre-processing, 3D mesh construction, 3D skeletonization, and also the shape analysis. Now, for pre-processing is actually we are using the conversion software to convert the CT scan images into the format that we want to use in our program, which is OBJ format. And then again, we are using the KMMCS program to construct the 3D mesh, the 3D femur. And in this 3D skeletonization, we are going to construct the medial axis transform. And our method, okay, is not in this existing method. We are using a different type. These 4 different processes, all right, axis adjustment and feature detection, minimum maximum thickness calculation, then followed by the maximum minimum center approach, and then also the minimum radius angle calculation, which is actually used by the orthopedics. I won't go into further because we are still writing the paper. And the shape analysis. So this 3D preoperative system is used by this Professor Jung, I think Dr. Jung in Korea. Okay, and they come up with a paper called population-based 3-dimensional analysis of age and sex-related femur shaft geometric differences. Actually, to study the bone structure. All right, it's actually a morphology studies. Okay, a very detailed study. So this is the result so far we got. Just going to. So this is a 3D femur. And yeah, by using the 4 methods that I have explained just now, not explained, just say, this is a sliding window, all right? We slide from the beginning until the end. I'm going to plastic, all right. So yeah, then at the end, yeah, we will get the skeleton. This is, all right, this is the skeleton of the femur. Okay. Okay, then I have presented a poster and now I'm preparing the journal report at the moment. Now, let's go to the phase, other related application. Now, so I thought, okay, once I got my skeletonization, skeletons, and I can perform my segmentation on this femur to be used by the orthopedics. So what I did is, this is a general structure of the femur. So I got all these calculation. Okay, in order to get the 2 different subsets. This is the second approach, different calculations, until the 4th one. I get actually amazing, where I can actually divide into 2 subsets. But okay, I have a meeting. Actually, it's an honor to meet Prof. Dr. O and Dr. Simerjit from UTAR. Actually, they are in UTAR. They are also the orthopedics. I have discussed with them and also discussed with engineers from Johnson & Johnson. Unfortunately, the results that I got here, there's no significant meaning. Okay, they do not need that. And for morphological studies in Malaysia, we also do not need it because we have the benchmark from Korea, Japan, and also China. So Malaysia studies or Malaysian morphological studies are actually based on these 3 as their benchmark. So according to Prof. O, okay, Prof. O, yeah, he's a very famous orthopedics in Penang, in Island Hospital. Say that the measurement at the moment, they do not worry about the measurement, and they do not worry about the implant device, the measurement for implant device as well. So, okay, so I'm looking actually for other related applications to be applied. So if you are interested or if you have any ideas and you want to collaborate, it's welcome. Please, you can email me to this UTAR email or Gmail. Thank you very much. Any questions from the floor?
Okay, thank you. So is there any question? Miss Saw, I have a question.
Sure, Wenli. Yeah, yeah.
I just curious because there's two major area in your presentation, which is the skeletonization and the segmentation.
Segmentation, correct.
Yeah, and I think both area also is very challenging.
Very challenging.
Yeah. So are you? I'm just curious. Are you looking? Why are you looking into two area together, or
okay?
not
No,
just
because
focus on one of it?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, first I thought I can focus on just one, which is the segmentation, but due to the limitation of technical results from the segmentation, because actually my results is only two subsets. So in order this result, wait, let me show you. Sorry, because the results that I got is only using the very simple 3D mesh. So actually, I have also submitted a paper to a journal, but also get rejected due to actually the suggestion given by them is because I'm using a very simple 3D mesh. And this is actually a regular 3D mesh I call. But how about if, let's say, I'm using an irregular or a very complicated 3D mesh? So can my algorithm be applied? So in order to use these irregular meshes, I need to at least extract the skeletons. So that's why, that's why I have to involve myself into this skeletonization as well. Because this segmentation normally is not only one, but they involve different kind of techniques as well. But I think, I answer your question. Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you again.
Okay, thank you.